Alright, the last phase of Uber Maven, 85. Let's do this really quick. Let me just stand here. I don't need a Zerk right now. Save the Zerk for later. Okay. She's gonna do a couple moves and then memory game probably. There it goes. Memory game time. Oh no, do you guys watch that? Which way? Which way? That's Zerk. Oh. Oops, wrong one. Tanked. Low. She dead. Drop the double balls. Where is she? That's the one move we gotta dodge. Just because the overlap. The Zerk's going off. And it's over. We tanked the memory game, but it's a bit close. I think I've done a bit of testing. We just need the basalt flask, right? If I really want to cheese it. Like, we tanked it with just a granite and a ruby flask with increased effect. But if I went all out and got basalt, 100% safe. Let's show you guys an Uber Elder actually, with Maven. Make it interesting. Alright, we'll set her with Zerk. It's a purple ball phase. We collect all the balls, right? Eat them, collect them, collect them. Ah, shit. Tanking the beam, tanking the beam. Taking the balls. Just drop the degen over there. I mean, the degen doesn't really matter. Okay. Okay. I mean, we can go outside and tank the explosion too. The real boss is coming up though. The actual real dangerous boss right here. The poopers. The squids are the actual boss because they drop fizz degen. Since I'm wearing abyssus, that's like one of the few things that can actually hurt. Right there, that's the actual boss. Time to collect more purple balls. Alright. Nope. Not supposed to collect them? Shaper beam. Alright, let's tank this. We actually, it actually does damage. Not too much, honestly. We can tank it if I put up my flask for sure. But yeah, since we have a 98 all res and it's converted to fire, you don't take any pen damage, so most of the enemy skills don't do anything. We have, was it, about 1,000 regen when we stand still or so. So that is mostly enough for the Shaper Beam. We degen a little bit, you can see. If we do leech, we can out-leech it. Tank the Shaper Slam, of course. Where is he? He's doing the purple ball thing again. So he's phased. Let's just drop a ball LS. And the real boss right there. See? So this is fizz degen. Alright. The slam does hurt, but we can tank it. That's without manual molten shells, so if we got slammed by like Uber Shaper and regular Elder at the same time, hypothetically, yeah, we could probably die. But the chance of that happening is pretty low, right? But you can see right here, this is a fizz degen. You see my health drop really fast, mostly because of abyssus. And right there, like I said, the slam does hurt. It doesn't kill me for sure. We can tank it, but it does hurt. And it's over. Do we get an eye? Ooh. Nice. Let's see. Boom. Alright, this is the last phase of Uber Sirus. We are using abyssus. Let's tank a meteor. So usually I just kill him right here. Drop double vaal, drop all the flasks, and then we just blow him up. But let's do some tests of tank. Alright, we berserk here, you can see we're doing a lot of damage. This without the double. Press my flask. Boom. Easy. Alright, now let's just kill him. We gotta wait until does this game. Oh no, he made it through. We're out of flasks. We can't tank that second one. We can tank most of the dive beams as long as we have Zerk, and we have to stand still, of course, because we are using Arctic armor, which means you only get the defensive buffs as you stand still. Mostly that less fire damage taken and the fizz, right? But we had to stand still. Hey everybody, let's go over my perma rage LS as Inquisitor and how the build works, and we can go over the gear and gems afterwards. But this build has decent amount of core HP, as like around 7k EHP between the ES and life. So this build has perma rage basically, or close to it. You can see I'm gonna pop berserk and blood rage at the same time. It usually lasts around at this point 18 so or seconds before it runs out. You can see that was like a 12 or it runs out. We get around 18 to 20 seconds of rage. So because of the Pantheon, we are using 2% regen when we stand still. That's conditional. But since we're Inquisitor and we get so much regen from the consecrated ground, we're popping off with about 10 rage per second when we move, or when we're standing still, and when we move around, 9 rage per second. We are getting rage from the Comb Spirit Gloves. This converts our life regen into rage per second. 100 life regen per second equals 1 rage. And since we're Inquisitor, the ES portion of the regen still works. So we're pumping out around 915 and 1000 when we stand still. That regen's really strong against dots and just recovery overall because it recovers the ES. So do note we get 0 life regen. So if we lose a little bit of health, we have 0 life regen for this build. But in return, we get all that rage, which means we have basically perma berserk. We have around 18 or so seconds, I would say, of berserk before it runs out, and then just a 5-second cooldown before we can berserk again. So we are using Lightning Strike as our main attack skill, and the main defining feature of the build is we are using a Doryani's prototype for a negative resistance. Usually that makes lightning dots very dangerous, but as you guys can see, we tanked Shaper Beam perfectly fine. We can, as long as we're leeching, we actually out regen it basically. I think we lose very little ES, like it goes down very slowly as we're taking Shaper Beam straight on. Uber Shaper Beam, that is, right? So how do we mitigate it? The core part of the mitigation is a very expensive jewel. It's sort of hard to find. It's a Sublime Vision. 30% of cold and lightning gets converted to fire damage. This includes dot, it's just cold and lightning. It's not hits, it's all cold and lightning. So that's 30% there. We have 20% from the shield, 20 cold and lightning into fire here as well. And then finally, we have a lethal pride with tempered by war. That means 50% of cold and lightning taken as fire. That means everything gets converted to fire, dots and hits. So if we have negative 184 lightning res, that doesn't matter. That just powers up our Doryani's prototype damage, and it also makes everything's converted to fire. So the only resistance we have to care about is fire res and chaos res for chaos damage. So we don't have to care at all about cold res. That opens up a lot of suffix possibilities on gear and makes gearing a lot easier for certain aspects, right? We also have 90 fire resistance because all our damage taken is converted into fire. So we want as much fire res as possible. So in this build, we are stacking as much fire max res as possible, and we hit 90 the cap, right? That's why we are so tanky. We have a little bit more tank here from the Inquisitor Augury Penitence node, 8% less elemental damage. And that's the main parts of the build. So we full convert everything to fire, and that means cold and lightning don't really matter. We just have to care about fire res, which we max out for 90 for a lot of tank. We have decent regen against dots from the Inquisitor node, just life regen. We have berserk for less damage taken. You can see we have berserk over, where's my berserk? I believe it is down here. So berserk, when we activate, we take 20% less damage, 20% more attack speed, 20% more attack damage. So that's a lot of damage, and it gives a lot of tank too. We have the enchant 30% increase effect. So that's actually 26% less damage, more damage, and more attack speed. So a lot of damage when it's on. Not to mention rage in itself grants fizz, flat fizz. So that's like a lot of our damage. We can also wear abyssus because since we are converting so much damage into physical taken as fire, we can actually use abyssus as damage. We're fairly tanky, as you guys can see in the video. So how do we mitigate the fizz taken as abyssus? The abyssus makes you take 40% more physical damage, right? We are mitigating it through a lot of armor. We have 12.5k without flasks, which is decent. We also have the shield, 19% physical taken as fire, so that's 19% right there. A Watcher's Eye, purity of fire. Because of the Sublime Jewel, we can only use one aura, which is purity of fire. So this is like the only option you can choose for Watcher's Eye. Since we take all damage as fire, we are also freeze and shock almost immune, right? I say almost because shocking ground and chilling ground still chill and freeze and shock you respectively, right? But you don't actually get frozen, chilled, or shocked by attacks, which is where you usually get those ailments. Because everything gets converted to fire. And since it's fire damage, it can only ignite, really. And you can also pick up ignite immunity from the Watcher's Eye. So, as I was talking about the physical convert for hits, we have 19% on the shield, 10% on the Watcher's Eye, so that's 29%. We have a Lethal Pride over here. Lethal Pride has 2 nodes of 5% physical taken from hits as fire. So total is 39% fizz taken as fire. So that makes up for the abyssus. The only downside of the abyssus really at this point is fizz dots. But fizz dots are pretty rare. You got the squid poop from the Uber Elder fight. You got the Cortex. His degen pools are pretty dangerous. They are fizz dots. And then there's a couple bosses like the Defiled Cathedral boss. He does a fizz degen. And I think Haunted Mansion boss also does fizz degen. So we're going to go over the gear really quickly now. So I opted for a weapon. We found a Fractured Merciless Claw. This is actually pretty cheap because fizz claws are not very popular at all. So since I am using Doryani's prototype, all our damage has to be lightning damage. We can deal no non-lightning. So the typical tri-elemental claw is not possible for this build. There's a couple options. You can either go fizz like what I did. We have a hybrid fizz and added lightning claw. You can see I essence crafted the lightning until we got flaring, and then we fixed the suffixes, which is attack, speed, crit, and then double damage, of course. With the chest, we have fizz to lightning with the lightning strike, which is already 50% converted. that equals 100% converted. So all our physical damage gets converted into lightning. The other option for the claw is you go get flat lightning once again, and then you could multi-mod hits can't be evaded, so you don't have to deal with accuracy at all, and you can craft lightning damage on the prefix, and then suffixes will be the same, or give or take, right? Those are two options for the claw. As you can see, my enchant did not hit. We have caster damage, but that's whatever. We'll go to a shield. The shield has to be a Dawnbreaker. This enables full 100% conversion of cold and lightning to fire. Also helps protect fizz taken as fire. It does scorch, but that's like a little bit unreliable, I would say. If you get the scorch off, it's just extra damage, but you don't need to worry about that too much because we are already at negative 184 resistance for lightning because of Doryani's chest. So the scorch doesn't add that much, maybe 1 or 2% damage at most. We are wearing abyssus since we can mitigate the 40% physical taken as extra, and that adds a lot of damage because all that flat, that melee, crit multi, and all that gets converted into lightning, so that's a lot of damage. As far as our necklace goes, I found a fractured elemental damage with attacks. We spammed the essence, I think is the torment one for flat lightning. I believe we tried to do flat contempt, flat fizz with contempt, but I actually wasn't able to hit T1 life. And then I tried some of the lightning ones and we hit this one. This aim is actually not finished. We have to still do the suffixes, but we did reforge chaos until a good chaos res. We can bring this to Syndicate later for Ashling. And then prefixes can't be changed for one more mod, actually. But it's pretty strong. We have to anoint Tribal Fury because we are using unique gloves. We need that additional strike for LS. So there's that. And then for our rings, we are just using 2 Doryani's rings from the Lake of Kalandra. I had to buy these. I tried to make my own. I threw 5 or 6 of those mirrors with some jewelry in it. I didn't hit anything. So this is just life and negative res. This one has accuracy, and this one on the right has intelligence. Other than that, it's just like life and negative resistance for the Doryanis. In the chest, Doryanis, right? This is where we get a lot of our damage from the negative resistance. And for the gloves, we have double corrupted, comb spirits, pretty cheap actually, plus 2 AoE. This is where I put my auras. It's just one aura really, purity fire. It also gives herald of purity and arctic armor, but the only thing that benefits is the purity of fire. Pretty important because the plus 2 bumps up my max res by 1. This converts the life regen into rage, but since we're Inquisitor, we still get the ES portion of the life regen. So yeah, core part of the build for the berserk. The belt is just a high life belt with fire and chaos res, the only 2 reses we have to care about. Crafted elemental damage and some strength. The jewel in here is just some extra accuracy we needed to cap out my accuracy, life, just whatever mods that are useful that you can find. And finally, the boots over here, we have Titan boots because we are just trying to stack up as much armor as possible. We have the implicits as plus 2 max fire res to hit that 90 cap. We also have fizz as extra lightning because we are converting fizz to lightning, and that fizz has extra lightning is quite big. Along with the enchant 1 to 160 lightning flat if you haven't killed recently is pretty big for bosses. I think it adds like almost 6 or 7% damage for boss fights. And the rest of the mods are just generic life, resistance, and 1 movement speed for the which cannot be chilled, right? To take care of our chill immunity. The flasks are just a divine flask of panic for bleeding. We have ruby flask on crit fractured with charge 1 hit. It should be charged when full, but I was bossing recently, so I put on the harvest enchant for more duration, just so it lasts long for boss fights. But usually when I'm mapping, it's used when the charges reach full. So diamond flask is increased armor and crit flask when I crit, which isn't bad if you use that as your only flask for that mod. Fills up pretty fast. There's only 40 charges, right? for Diamond Flask. We have a Quartz Flask for phasing, and we have life regen. That's more rage regen plus actual life regen for ES against dot damage. We finally have a Granite Flask in the last slot. This is actually wrong. Oops. That was my, we need to use these for bossing. In particular, the increase effect Ruby and Granite to tank the memory game. Just the normal Granite Flask that I use isn't quite good enough. This is just attack speed and charges one hit. So you saw me tank the memory game. I had to use increase effect Ruby and Granite Flask with Zerk and all my buffs up. Minus Fortify, actually. We can't get Fortify because you can't consistently get it, because sometimes the map bosses are dead, or they you can't get it up in the last phase. So we tank the memory game without Fortify, right? If you get Fortify, it just makes it that much safer, but it was pretty safe. I didn't die at all once I do manual molten shell with these two flasks up for the boss fight. And then for a Sirus fight, we actually had to switch out the Basalt. We need all three. Yes, Sirus. The Meteor does a lot of fizz damage, and the Abyssus is like take a lot more fizz damage, right? If we use all three and a manual molten shell, we can tank it. And finally, we have a Bottle of Faith for bossing. We switched that out for our phasing flask. That's all. Let's go over the gems really quickly for the build. In my weapon, we have Life Tap, Assassin's Mark, Mark on Hit. That is our curse / mark of choice. It just gives a lot of flat crit plus crit multi. And you need to use the regular quality because you get 5% chance to grant power charge on hit, and we hit pretty fast. And we do double hit, so you can get max power charges in a boss fight easily. So we'll go to shield next. The shield is Withering Step. We use that while moving to reset our elusive, and then we attack to get rid of it, and then you crit again to reset the elusive, so it's more crit multi when you have higher elusive percent. Flame Dash is our movement skill over obstacles and to jump over stuff. Whirling Blades is our main movement ability. We don't really walk at all. With Zerk and with Blood Rage up, you can see it's really fast. We actually don't even walk. This is when I map, I mostly just Whirling Blades everywhere. Then Flame Dash over obstacles. So for our helmet, we are using Anomalous Sigil Power. This just makes the max charges faster. That way, if the enemy's in the circle, it's 10% less damage. And also a little bit of flat, but not that much. We don't have that much mana, so I can't really use the high level one. So we're just using the lowest level one. Next is Life Tap to sustain it, because it has quite a bit of mana cost. You can see right here, where is it? The Sigil Power costs 100 life. If we take this out, it will cost 36. We only have 100 mana. 110, right? So if we're attacking really fast, and it also we use a couple skills like Zerk and Flame Dash and Elusive and put down the totem, we could run out of mana. So that's why I put Life Tap in here. And this goes with, usually I do cast 1 damage taken, but we use increased duration for boss fights when I want a manual molten shell. So molten shell with cast 1 damage taken is my usual setup. As far as the chest goes, it's Vaal LS, Anomalous for the Pierce. Otherwise, you have to grab it on the tree, because ideally you want the enchant to be Berserk a buff effect, not Pierce up here. So 2 Pierce, it felt good enough for me for clear. If you're doing super juice maps, we're talking about like 5 scarabs beyond all this other stuff, like max juice. You might want to get more Pierce on the tree just for clear, but 2 Pierce is more than enough for regular content. And even like semi-juice maps at 80% with Beyond, I was fine with that. 2 Pierce and 1 Strike from the Tribal Fury Anoint. Next gem is Divergent Inspiration. This just lowers the mana cost. It's minus 44 because you get 10% from the alt quality. Just lowers the cost so we can use it more effectively. Next is Fizz to Lightning. We need this 50% conversion because we are using a Fizz Claw and the Abyssus, which adds flat Fizz. So that's a lot of damage. Full converts us. We are using Awakened Elemental damage to attacks. Also at level 5, it makes us immune to Reflect, which is quite nice quality of life. We are using Fortify for just Fortify and some damage. If we wanted to get a more damage link, we could, but I prefer 4 to 5 with just 20% less damage. And we're using Anomalous Nightblade, which increases the elusive effect a bit, because Nightblade's just too strong. It gives you flat crit, it gives you tank, it gives you crit multi. Alright, for the gloves, we are using Enlighten 4. You don't actually need Enlighten 4. We were using it in the previous setup before I had more mana. But I think Enlighten 3 should be fine. The mana will be a little bit hard to sustain, but you can also get some mana reservation nodes on tree too to lower it. So we are using Purity of Fire, our only aura, because we are using a Sublime Jewel. So we can only use this, as it also gets increased effect from the Sublime Jewel. And this gives us a lot of fire res to help cap your fire res in the build, right? And it also gives you the max res, right? That we are stacking to 90. Herald of Purity, that's just more physical damage. We are converting that because there's not that many. Since we can only use one aura, there's not that many choices for mana reservation. You can only use Heralds and something like Arctic Armor. Arctic Armor is really nice because we only take fire and fire, fizz, chaos. That's the only thing we take. So that's, if we stand still, which we do when we attack, we are always standing still. And if you know that big attacks come in, you can just stand still like a Uber Shaper Slam. Just stand still and you should be good. Just 22% less damage from the fizz. And if it's elemental, that means it's 22% less from the fire. Herald Purity is just more damage. And finally in the boots, we have Blood Rage. Enhance to give it more quality, which increases the attack speed. Berserk, which gets a little bit attack damage. And Ancestral Protector Phantasmal. Over the tree really quick for you guys. So as far as Ascendancy, we went Sanctuary first, and Pious Path for perma conk ground regen, plus some damage when the enemies are in conk ground, right? So that gave us a lot of regen. Next we went Righteous Providence for that crit from Strength and Int, whatever's lowest. And then finally we went Augury of Penitence. Alright, the tree, we start out here, went up here, we grabbed Sanctity, we went down here, we're grabbing Armor Mastery, 30% less damage from crits. Spiky damage is what kills you usually in PoE, so that gives a little bit of mitigation over there. We have a Thread of Hope here, a very large, negative 20 res. We are Doryani's prototype, and we are full convert, so it's all positive. We just have to mitigate the fire resistance because that's the only resistance we need positive. Everything else is good for us. More negative res for lightning. That's more damage. More cold res. Irrelevant since we're a full convert. This lets us grab Discipline and Training. Divine Further because we are melee crit. And it lets us grab Tireless and then a life cost reduction node. And finally, it lets us grab Born to Fight. Pretty good here. You could definitely drop this if you want to go for a setup where you get a Conviction of Power, Flameless, the Flame and Flesh Jewels, right? Conviction of Power would be very strong for this build. It would add endurance charges. It does mitigate some of your doryani since you get plus 16 lightning res. But for how much tank you get, 16% fizz DR and perma power charges, it's worth, I would say, if you are going that way, but I opted for a Thread of Hope here. This also has CB immunity. You definitely want CB immunity. I played most of the game without it and just used flasks manually. It felt fine. I never felt like really dangerous from that bleeds and stuff like that, because we have that ES regen, which mitigates like a lot of the degens. We grabbed this Corrupted Blood immunity, mostly for the Sirus fight, honestly. Other than that, I would, if there wasn't a Sirus fight, CB immunities, whatever, we could just use a flask. So we go down here through the life nodes, we grab the life mastery, of course. We go through the Cyan Life Wheel. We get Iron Grip because that affects our LS projectiles. We go down here, we stop right here. We are using a Sublime Vision. Like I said, this is a core part of build. Very expensive. I think it ranges from 40 to 60 divs. There's not that many on the market. Usually there's like a single digit number of them on the market. So hard to find, but definitely core part of the build for full conversion. We're going through here, through Master Arena, Bravery, just pathing straight through. We're grabbing a jewel slot. We're grabbing Impossible Escape and Bounce Guard. Why? We need to stack max res. We get +3 max res here for our fire res. We also get Eagle Eye, which is very nice for accuracy and some crit. And Kinetic Impacts is quite strong, 5% double damage, so that's about a little bit under 5% more damage, basically. We're pathing down here. We grab the Mark Mastery nodes here. It gives us Culling Strike. Also lets us get Frenzy Charges for bossing, 10%. And since we attack so often, you can easily stack full Frenzies. We got Point Blank for projectiles from LS and the Vaal LS projectiles. We're grabbing Lethality down here for crit. We're pathing through here in Herbalism to grab Intuition, just because it's a very good node, combined with a Lethal Pride in this area. Our particular Lethal Pride gives us 10% Fizz taken as fire. I have a 20% Fizz, 5% more double damage, and Strength. You can look it up with the POB thing, Find Timeless Jewel tool. That's how I found this one. We need Temper to War for full conversion. It is a bit annoying though, because it does make your lightning res less, so that means you need -400 to hit the 200 cap for Doryani's negative resistance. But we did need it, and that's like the only way, other than the Glorious Vanity, or no, Sibakwa, Chaos, 50% of Elemental taken as Chaos. But we can't use that because we're Inquisitor. That basically makes your ES useless. So that means a part of the reason why I chose Inquisitor would be useless. If you go that way with Divine Flesh, the 50% Elemental taken as Chaos, you can use that to do full conversion. So that way you would be 50% fire, 50% chaos converted for all cold and lightning damage. If you go there, I would suggest Berserker instead, because you don't need ES at that point, and the Divine Flesh makes ES useless. But since we're Inquisitor, I had to use this instead. So we go up here. Let's go to left first. We go to left. We are grabbing Revenge of the Hunted for more life. Supreme Ego. This just bumps us +1 max res for fire, and that's the most important part about it. We only have one aura, which is Purity Fire, so it doesn't actually increase your aura reservation too much. So it's actually worth it because we need it to hit the 90 cap. We put a Massive Thread of Hope here, -20 for more Doryani's negative resistance. Really great spot, gives you Sleight of Hand, Will of Blades, more damage. Also Master Blades here if we had a more level. Blood Siphon for more life, and life gain on kill, some strength. Also hits the leadership. We don't have that many auras, we only have one aura, so that's not very good, but it gives you 8% mana reservation efficiency if you do need that. Also hits Hired Killer, that's 7% more life, pretty good node. And some accuracy and prodigy damage here if you need to hit the accuracy. Also hits Finesse, attack speed, accuracy, dex, which gives you more accuracy if you need to hit that for accuracy cap. It hits Weapon Artistry and Aspect of Links, attack damage, crit. Pretty good nodes overall. Just a really good spot for a Massive Thread of Hope. So we're going up here. We are grabbing Dagger node as Elusive Mastery. Just, it's so strong. Grabbing Claw nodes. Nightblade Elusive effect because it's stacking crit multi and everything. We are grabbing Unnatural Instinct right here. This is just a really strong spot. You get Chaos Res, you get some accuracy, some crit, some life gain and ES gain on kill, and some mana. Just a really good spot. High value. Large cluster right here. Claw and Dagger can also use Shield. Actually, we did not slam the... Oh, no, we did slam it. It looks weird. That I can see the 4th mod Chaos Res, but it's only one node. That doesn't really matter. So we are using this one because we're getting Fuel of the Fight, Martial Prowess. This gives us our Mana Leech. This is just a very good node. The last node doesn't matter because we're not grabbing it. In here we have our Watcher's Eye. And over here we have a Megalomaniac. Most important mod, Molten One's Mark, +2 max fire res, that hits 90 cap. Dragon Hunter is just something decent we found. And Feast of Flesh, which is our attack leech. So, if you can't find a Megalomaniac with a leech, you would just get Fuel the Fight. There's a, I forget what the, there's another, you can look it up, I forget what the name is. There's another node that gives you a leech right there. They can get on this large cluster. I forget the name of it. Yeah, there's one that you can get the attack leech there. So that's another option. So some final thoughts on build. Build ended up being pretty strong. We could tank a lot of content. It trivializes the fights like Uber Shaper and Uber Elder. Like you can just walk through the purple balls because since everything's converted, the reason why the purple balls do a lot of damage is it has cold pen. But if it's converted to fire, there is no cold pen, so we take 0 damage. So those fights are like it's too easy. Exarch, pretty good against Exarch with the 90 max res, and we always use a ruby flask because everything's converted to fire, so that's actually 20% less elemental damage. So that's a very strong part of the build. I was able to do all content. We did 100% Delirious maps. Pretty good map clear. Pretty good map clear. As you see in the POB, we can show the damage. Also, I forgot to show this. So we are doing around 12.5 million Shaper DPS on just a melee strike from the LS. The projectiles are doing about 9 million or so. So I would say we're doing about 21 million. And this is pretty conservative. I don't have anything that's crazy, just power charge, frenzy charges. We're elusive, obviously. Rage, 40. You can lower it. If you, on average, it'd probably like be 25. But for boss fights, since we can press it and then we get like a good 5-6 seconds of 40 plus rage, I put it at 40. You can lower it to whatever, or you can just leave it blank. We go down to 10.8 instead of 12.5, but it's around 20 million, or give or take, from the double hits. And we have Conk Ground, obviously. We have crit recently because our crit's so high, right? Have we killed recently? Of course not for bosses. 20% shock. It's around 20 to 20, around high 20s depending on the boss. So it's a bit up and down, but at least 20 I would say for most bosses. And they're on Conk Ground because we're that close for melee. They're probably on Conk Ground. Pretty high chance. And this is without any flasks on. I don't like putting on the flasks because well, we're not Scion or we're not Pathfinder with perma flasks. So with this 14 million, but that's very not perma, so I don't like putting those on. Yeah, we're doing around 20 million, and then when we do vaal LS, a vaal LS does another 2, so that's another 10 million about. Another like 18 million, so we're pushing around 40 million like peak DPS when we pop everything. We pop all my flasks. We're doing around 40 million, I would say. So a lot of damage. All right, back to the build. So the build is pretty fun. It's an LS build. We're pretty fast. We have berserk to make up our attack speed and blood rage. So we whirling blaze everywhere. Really fast build, extremely tanky. We have the elusive dodge. You can see we have like decent armor. We have let's see, what's my molten shell? 2.7 without anything. So we just have molten shell. We have full conversion. We have decent fizz taken as fire, 39%. Just really strong build. Cons about the build: very expensive. Mostly because of the Sublime Jewel. 40 to 60 divs depending on the market. Next up, Impossible Escape. This one was 10 to 20 depending on the market. So that gives us our max res. Pretty expensive. Once again, Unnatural Instinct. You don't really need this. This is just min-maxing for the build. The Massive Thread of Hope, I believe it's like around 20. These are expensive too. So honestly, just the jewels in itself are that 20, 20, 60, 20 is about 120 divs or to 100 divs. That's most of the cost of the build, honestly. This one's cheap. The CB one, I think it was like 3 or 4. But the very large is cheap because no one There's plenty of those. It's just the massive that's expensive. This lethal prod, I think it was like 1 div. Everything else is like 1 div maybe. I think this Watcher Eyes was like only like 50 chaos. They're not very good. Megalomaniac was like 1 div. Not too many people are doing max fire stacking. So most of the jewels is the cost. So that's about 100 to 120. The Doryanis is about 10, I would say, for 6 linked. I'm not sure what it is now. Let's just call it 10. This one's probably 1 to 2 for berserk effect. Good rolls on abyssus. So that's like 130. That's like maybe 5 or something like that. So 135. The claw we made, pretty easy to make if you can buy the fractured base. I think it was like only like 2 or 3 divs for the base. Not very popular fizz. So like I said, that's like 130, 135. Let's just call it 140. I think 19 fizz with 2020 is around 2 divs. I've been double corrupting these, trying to get a good mod. Never did hit one, but yeah, they're around 2 divs, so let's say 140. The amulets, dirt cheap. It's fractured elemental attack T2. That's like probably like 50 chaos, so let's just say 1 div, 141. These rings, very hard to tell with the market. Sometimes I know Doryani's is popular. You're just gonna have to look for mods. Let's just say 10 divs each. So that'd be like what? So that was 130, 135, 140, 160 maybe. Like I said, I don't know. I think we bought this one for like 6 or 7. This one was like 6 or 7 too, but let's just say 10 each just in case if the market goes up. These, I think there's like 2. So yeah, 160. This one's probably like 5 divs maybe. I don't know. It's hard. I self-crafted this, so these not too much, and the boots aren't really anything. They're like 1 div to 2 divs to craft. They're like nothing special. So I would say overall, so that's 130, 135, 140, 160, 170 divs for all the gear. Everything's like 170, not including Battle Faith. 170, but most of it's in the jewels. So it's definitely an expensive build. Extremely tanky, extremely fast. Pretty interesting with the full conversion. I hope you like the build. That's definitely the biggest con. It's very expensive. If you don't want to do a Sublime Jewel, you can definitely do Inquisitor with just Comb Spirit and then stay on this side of the tree. Or even go to Claw. You don't need to convert with the Doryani's prototype. You can just use this. Some kind of attack-based Inquisitor for sure is quite strong with these berserk gloves. Or if you want to do a Sublime Jewel instead of using like Tempered by War I mentioned, right? You can use the Sibakwa one for Divine Flesh for 50% chaos. Makes it a lot easier to get to negative 200 lightning res. Right now this is negative 184, but this is actually like doubled because of Tempered by War. So if you go a Berserker, since they already have Rage, you don't need these gloves. That means you can get the generic LS gloves with Strike and Pierce. Makes that gearing a lot simpler. But you can definitely do this build with LS Zerker instead, and then do full convert also. Would give you a lot of power with the Doryanis. Yeah. If you have any questions, you can ask me in Discord or hit me up in Twitch. Yeah. Hope you enjoy the build. Bye, everybody. Oh, yeah. I'm going to leave a feared fight at the end for you guys to watch. A feared. This is the highest quant one we could find that, like, doesn't bother us at all. No mods, basically. Let's see where it goes. Just bust expire faster, but that's fine. And +2 proj. +2 proj, avoid ailments, so, yeah. Not quite as fast with the shocks. Should be fine. Most dangerous person is the Cortex because the Fizz degens from the Abyssus, Sirus, whatever. Shapers, whatever. We have to kill Elder because the bubbles. Cortex we can't blow up because he has a delayed spawn. So we're gonna blow up Elder first. Release all at once, of course. Berserk is off. Should be fine now. We just have to kill Cortex. Probably shouldn't tank that just in case, but you know. Ah, Shaper Beam, lol. Easy. What do we get? 257 quant. Not bad. Not bad at all. And we got 2.2 writ, 2.1 writs, right? No, 2.2 writs. Uber Eater Worlds, we're immune to chill. We don't expose. You're steal their frenzy charges, and since we're Doryani's, res doesn't really matter. Alright, let's go in. So, since we are a rage build, we just chill here for a second. Let my rage stack up. We get like how much per second? 9 per second. Alright, now we're ready to go. You can tank it if I have the flask up, right? If we have the flask up, we actually do have to sort of dodge because that thing is very dangerous. The what's it called? The tentacles actually do hurt. Drop the double vaal skills. Big damage. Alright, hunger, we gotta run from. Pretty easy. You do have to actually dodge this fight because we can't tank all the tentacles. If my flasks are up and we get Fortify and Berserk, we can tank one full set of tentacles, but we got pretty low, so you can't just AFK this fight. The one major change for this fight is we use the Harvest enchant for increased effect. That's mostly for dodging the meteors, so it'll be up the entire time. It lasts 17 seconds or so. It's pretty nice. We are stacking the rage first. No mods really. We're reflect immune, so. Alright, wait. Activate Zerk. And now we start fighting. We're gonna save the Bow of Faith for the next phase. When I have double vaal attacks. So we're saving it for that. This guy's pretty nice because he actually gives us Fortify. Because otherwise we wouldn't have Fortify usually. Well, look at this. 90 max fire res plus flask. The ball phase is not that bad. We can tank a lot of balls. Eventually, yeah, we do get hurt. Alright, we dropped the double vaal skills. And he phased. Oh, one thing, do not drop the totem because the totem can break the balls and the balls actually have an AoE around them. Alright, let's back up. We probably should drop the double vaals there. Just to kill him. He's good for our leech too, because this build doesn't have any life regen. Because all the life regen, because the gloves turn into rage. Double vaal skills. I think we should be able to just phase them here. Push. Easy push. Good. Polymath. Interesting.